We are the Center for Spiritual Living Los Angeles, and I celebrate each and every one of you being here today, and I know that you celebrate each other. We're a metaphysical-based community that originated as the Los Angeles Church of Religious Science, and we do teach, preach, and practice metaphysics here, which includes the science of mind in its most modern incarnation in the 21st century, known as a philosophy, a faith, come on in, and a way of life. Our vision statement for our beloved community here is supporting our individuals in finding their personal self-empowerment, through a spiritual awakening. So what that means is that we honor the allness and the wholeness and the completeness that is you. That is you that is expressing the divine in all of its magnificence and all of its glory. If you're here for the first time, we welcome you, we celebrate you, we honor you. We want you to know that you will hear some languaging today that may be different from stuff that you traditionally hear in houses of worship, which is somewhat non-Christian in its manner. You'll hear that we refer to the power of the divine as the oneness of all life, and you'll hear something called spiritual mind treatment or affirmative prayer. And what that speaks to is the methodology in which we communicate with the power of the divine that exists by means of all of us. And we do that through affirmation, through declaration, and honoring that which exists within us. In other words, no supplication or begging or hoping. That doesn't exist here. Most importantly, we want you to know that we're happy that you're here to share this time that we have together, and that we each have the opportunity to honor the light of the divine that exists within all of us. So what our founding teacher, Dr. David Walker, used to say to us always on a Sunday morning is, welcome one and welcome all. So everyone come on in, get settled in. People coming on in, we're happy to do that. Just know that the air conditioning is cranked down. If it's warm, we'll get it cooler, and it rarely gets warmer, so just know that. We begin each and every service on Sunday morning with a ritual called Calling in the Light. Many of you are familiar with the ritual itself, and we will continue the ritual, but it's going to be a little bit different today in that I've written something new for us. And so let's trust that that all works perfectly. That is led by our practitioner of the day, and that would be moi. We had some people that couldn't make it today, and so let's just know that we're honoring everyone who's on their path to wellness in our world. Those that are experiencing that's called sickness at the moment, which is not me, by the way. All right, so we'll continue to honor the wellness of everyone, and our illuminator of the day is our board member on duty, which is Matt Fonda, so let's welcome him. And the way that this unfolds is that there's some music that will be played, and then I'll guide us through the lighting of the battery-operated candles, and then there's a call and response singing for you, and then we'll close with what's called spiritual mind treatment or affirmative prayer. So are we ready?
Calling in the light, calling in the light, calling in the light of love, calling in the light, calling in the light, calling in the light of love.
The ritual we perform this morning is called Calling in the Light. We perform this ceremony to promote the universal consciousness of life, which acknowledges that all peoples and all faiths, all sentient beings come from the one great universal presence. It's that which we call spirit. The purpose of this ritual is to draw into our gathering this morning a conscious awareness of our oneness and the qualities that we each possess as complete expressions of the divine. This month I'm speaking on change your vibrations, change your life. So as we feel the vibrations shift during this experience of this ritual, may we each become ever more aware of the light of life that exists in and as all of life, including you and including me. As we honor light, Matt lights the first candle for the letter L in the word light. letting the letter L stand for the quality that we have as divine beings to listen. To listen to that which is taking place around us, that which is taking place within us, and that which we express in life. May we let that innermost voice, power, and energy that we hear be reflected outward in our everyday expressions. Continuing to use the word light as an acronym, breaking it down to the letter I, Matt lights the second candle. I in this ritual standing for intuition. Intuition is that inner voice, that inner knowing that exists within us that many would say is the power of the divine, communicating through and as us. Feeling this vibrational shift, may we become ever more aware of the intuition within us. May we give instruction to ourselves to follow it. And may we become even more consciously aware of the ripple effect that takes place as we act in accordance with it. As we light this candle, may we allow our intuition to be the guide for us in our life. Moving to the third letter in the word light, Matt lights the candle for the letter G, standing for the word God. G-O-D. One of the most powerful words on our planet. In metaphysical terms, God is also known as source, as oneness, as life, as the thing itself. During this ritual and throughout the morning and the day, when we become ever more aware of the life of the divine that exists in and as each of us, the preciousness of life itself. Moving to the fourth letter, H, Matt lights the candle for the letter H, standing for the word holistic. Holistic living is becoming aware of our mentality, our spirituality, our physicality, and our emotionality. May we commit to an integrated awareness of not only its existence, but how we choose to live our life. And may our choices in life reflect the divine wholeness that exists within us already. As we move to the fifth candle for the word light, T stands for transformation. The transformation that we each exist and experience and express as we are awakened to the spiritual nature of who we are, and in so doing, are empowered personally in a greater and greater way, transforming the planet that we live on. And as this candle is lit, may we each experience a metamorphosis as the spiritual awakening unfolds. As we move to the final candle, the healing candle, I ask that you take a moment and think of anyone, including all this morning who may be ill or diseased, and silently put them into the light of the healing flame so that they may experience the eternal and everlasting love of the divine.
I am love. I am love. I am peace. I am peace. In my heart. I am free.
I am free.
I am spirit.
I am spirit.
I am soul.
I am soul.
All together. We are whole. Calling in the light. Calling in the light. Calling in the light of love. Calling in the light. Calling in the light. Calling in the light of love. And so it is. And so it is. And so it is.
So I invite you to close your eyes, please. Revel in the peace and the silence and the transformation. Just simply feeling all of life itself. Letting us know together that the voice that we hear of the cooing, that it's no mistake that this beloved's name is Angel. Taking a moment to remember what we've learned this month so far, that simply by calling our name in life, the vibration of life itself, source, God, the thing itself, ripples out into the planet. And so this isn't hocus pocus, it is science and it is physics, substantiating that which we teach and know here in metaphysics. That the interconnectedness that we feel in this moment is real. And then we get to experience and express it more and more and more as we are awakened to that which it is, which is us. And so in this time that we share together this morning in the celebration service, we relax and settle in and allow our being to just receive nurturing, whether that's through music or energy or vibrations or just the opportunity to sit still for 67 minutes. We let it be because it is indeed all good. As we say together, amen, and so it is. Amen, so wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, musicians. And thank you all. And for those that came in after we had begun, welcome. Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living, Los Angeles. So our very special music this morning, I'm going to just hand it over to Andy and let him tell you all about it. So Andy, take it away.
This is all my mother's fault. On Yom Kippur, back in the days when I was living in London, growing up there, and was more Orthodox than I am now, more than I could ever be, we were in synagogue on Yom Kippur, and at the very end of a long day of fasting and praying, there was this final hymn that is sung, Avinu Malkeinu, before they blow the shofar and they end the service. And basically it's asking God to inscribe us in the book of life. It's really all about that. Fade out on that. 41 years ago, I'm on a Sunday before Yom Kippur, as a matter of fact, I'm in a recording studio with some guys, and we were doing this album for Fox Records. It was a lady named Bobby Hall, who was a percussionist, is a percussionist, she's an amazing person. This is the time when they were putting out instrumental albums like Sergio Mendes and Brazil's and all of that stuff. So every label wanted to have an instrumental album. This was Fox's. I don't think it did well for them, but anyway. We were one song short finishing the album, and it occurred to me that I wanted to do this song, Avinu Malkeinu. And we did, and it was released, and Fox released it as a single. And it probably sold 2 copies. But I was reminded of this piece. It's one of my favorite Hebrew melodies, and I asked Leah if she would play the lead on it. And so we're going to play to the actual track that we recorded 41 years ago. So all the technology aside, let's pray for this to work.
Andy Belling.
Thank you. Andy Belling, Leah Ziegler, and Guy Azule. Quite wonderful. Yeah, you can raise your hands. Obviously, no mistake that I'm speaking on changing your vibrations, change your life, right? Just feel the radical shift in vibrationals change. During that song, I'm a little shaking from it because I was holding the camera, and also just the experience that I'm sure you all were having, that I was having. The frame, we were Facebook Living during that, and the frame during that got right to the top of the Star of David. And so as I took that in, it was really amazing to not only feel the energy of the music and the fact that the word justice was over Andy's head, that it's definitely justice that technology exists in a way today that we not only get to experience you playing that track, but that we can then send it out around the world with technology, with a device that I was holding in my hand. And so that speaks to every single thing that I'm speaking on this month, and why I really want us to become, I'm literally shaking, just so you know that, from the vibrations of that. And I can feel it because it's even more than just the technology of that. It speaks to that which we address here in metaphysics, which is every single thing that takes place in mind has taken place in mind before. And so not only just the terms that Andy used for, what was the term, Andy? The final word in the song or the prayer? I didn't hear it again. I heard volcano hanu, and I don't think volcano is the word. Avinu malheno. Avinu malkano. So Avinu malkano. So every time that word has been spoken on our planet, there is a resonance to it that speaks to the vibrational field of consciousness that I'm speaking of today. And so that's exactly what I've been talking about all month, is that word isn't just a word, it's a word that holds a vibrational frequency that exists in all of mind. And is that word, as it's been used in a life-affirming way, we feel that, whether we're consciously aware of it or not, and yet we also know that we have the capacity to be consciously aware of that. And as we do so, being conscious evolutionists, as I spoke about last week, then just simply raising our awareness to that spiritual, physical truth, physical meaning part of physics, truth, then we're impacting the world because we're not just aware of it, then we're doing something consciously with it. So I'm going to begin, that was the beginning, by the way. I'm going to begin by reading to you a little bit this week as I did last week, because part of what I want to share with you all this month of really prompting you to go deeper in mind to know yourself and act accordingly as a conscious, awakened metaphysician is to think anew. As a new thought practitioner, to have a new thought about who you are as a spiritual being and how you show up in the world, in a world that is governed by not only just physical but spiritual law. Guglielmo Marconi was an Italian inventor, and he was able to show to the world the feasibility of radio communication. However, he had a hard time being believed that signals could be sent wireless. His colleagues and other scientists said he was ready for the Looney House. He sent and received his first radio signal in Italy in 1895. By 1899, he flashed the first wireless signal across the English Channel. On June 2nd, 1896, he applied for a British wireless telegraphy patent. Shortly thereafter, he applied and obtained a patent in the United States. He electrified the world when he succeeded in sending a wireless signal from Newfoundland to Ireland. Believing that radio waves, like light rays, on which signals had already been sent, shot out into space when they reached the horizon, some scientists did not believe his claim to have sent a signal across the Atlantic. Today, we know better. Today, we know better. What this speaks to is that the mind of humanity wanting to defy the possibility of evolution unfolding. Now, we know from a political perspective that exists in our world today, and I'm not going to talk about that. But what I want us to look at is that where in our lives are we holding on to some ideology of what is impossible as opposed to opening up to that which is possible? As a new thought awakened being, it is incumbent upon us to consciously keep an open mind. I spoke about that last month in talking about manifesting our dreams through our desires. And if you recall, I spoke of how Deepak Chopra told us that in the matrix of manifestation, it's important for us to remember at all time what is required of us as we stay in the flow of manifestation is a flexible consciousness. In other words, an open mind. So let us, for just a moment, use the dog whistle as an example to illustrate a point, what we perceive as true or not. Now, today, we all know that dogs can detect sounds that are undetectable to the human ear, correct? We know that. When someone blows a dog whistle, we know the sound will be detected by the dog even though we can't hear it. Our five senses are not able to detect the sound, but we still accept it as fact, as true, as reality, correct? But this has not always been the case. Inventors throughout history have had a hard time being accepted and believed by their fellow man when they invented something. Why? Because the frame of knowledge at the time did not have the ability to grasp it and embrace it as a new truth. So these brave men and women had a rough journey trying to convince people. Most people don't like change. I'm sure that's not any of you. Who's sitting in the same seat they sat in last week? All right? Just saying, okay. Most people that don't like change are afraid of changing what they already know. Not about just where you sit, but already change what they already know. But the inventors and pioneers of the past never gave up. They paved the way for a new world with new truths. One was Marconi that I just spoke of. This month, as I've said already, I'm speaking on change your vibrations, change your life. Now, how many of you, when you first heard that back in, what month are we in? September and August, thought to yourself, oh my God, here he goes, hocus pocus again, right? Anybody? Good, I applaud you. You're trusting me, I like it. So obviously the change your vibrations, change your life is a play on the concept of change your thinking, change your life. And it's been my goal and my objective this month to show us that we do indeed need to change our thinking to change our life. But we're also learning it's more than that. The foundation for changing our life is changing our thinking. But in addition to that, there are multiple other things for us to do, such as, well, I'll get into that in a moment. But what I want to base this on this morning is, just like radio waves and dog whistles all exist at a frequency or an energy, I want to remind you that Albert Einstein told us that every single thing in life is energy. And that's all there is to it. Everything is energy. And that's all there is to it. He goes on to write, match the frequency of the reality that you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. Get meaning manifest it through the law of creation. Match the frequency of the reality that you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way, for this is not philosophy, he says, it's physics. In other words, it's immutable, it's absolute, it's true. Whether you want to believe that it's true or not, it's still true. However, once you begin to move beyond the framework of your knowledge of thinking that it's impossible that's true and owning that as a cellular level that it's true as a conscious being, then you can take a quantum leap in how you use the power of the divine in your life. In other words, move into a higher dimension of knowledge and thinking. The Tao writes that the key to growth is the introduction of higher dimensions of consciousness into our awareness. And it's important to know that it is critical, should you desire to find personal self-empowerment through a spiritual awakening on an ongoing basis, that it is incumbent upon you and required for you to find higher dimensions of consciousness into your awareness, and yet it can't just be in your awareness. You have to act accordingly. You have to express those higher demands of consciousness. You have to give those higher demands of consciousness out. You have to release them. You have to manifest them as the experience that you desire in your life, because you let that be the wholeness of your consciousness that you're aware of. Well, what does that mean in regards to vibrations? Well, here's what Dr. Holmes tells us about that. He says that vibration, to vibrate, is actually law in execution. What he's saying is the actual vibrations that exist within you and within me that's being emanated from us is the law of life in execution. He goes on to write, to vibrate may mean to fluctuate, to waver, a moving or swinging to and fro. We speak of being in vibration to one thought and then another. We mean being in harmony with one thought and then another, switching from one to another. In other words, it's not static, it's alive. Right? It's using the life force that it is, and that you and I get to use that life force because that life force is who we are. And it's already in execution, and yet, because we're conscious beings, in other words, we have the ability to be aware of being aware of that which we know, we can then use our consciousness and the law in a way that magnifies that which it inherently is, and we know that the qualities of that which it inherently is peace, power, beauty, joy, light, life, love, and wisdom. He goes on to write, the vibration of a book is the mental atmosphere of that book. It is what we read between the lines as well as on the lines. We speak of the high vibrations of a room as well as on the line, a high vibration of the room, particularly a room used for spiritual and mental treatment, and we mean the spiritual consciousness which has been engendered there. We felt that energy earlier as that song was playing, that he's talking about of the higher vibrational frequency of a room where the connection consciously and purposefully and intentionally is to align yourself with the power that exists within us that we call God or life or source or Allah. Because it's all the same power. It's all the same power. Now, you just saw me having a moment of emotion in that moment. And it's when I said the word Allah, because I know that there are people that use that word today without aligning with the highest frequency that the word exist is. Because when the word is tested from a stream of consciousness, a vibrational David Hawkins work, it vibrates up there with God and Jesus and Yahweh, the highest words possible because of the energy that they represent in life and in consciousness. And let's move on. So today, what I'm here to talk to you about is not only that we become aware of the vibration of life itself, that not only do we become aware of the consciousness that exists in a holistic perspective as well as by you and by I, but for you and me, but for us to know that our vibration in the world is emanating at all times. And are we aware that it is being responded to by the law of vibration? This was written that I think is important for us to hear today regarding this concept. Will we change what we believe in? It's titled. And it says that maybe, now remember, I'm putting this in the perspective of, are you willing to open your frame of knowledge to evolve into a higher state, a higher dimension of consciousness, in so doing, changing your vibration, changing your life? Maybe in the near future, it's written, the law of vibration will be a well-known fact for every single person on this planet, just as much a fact as our planet being round and part of the Milky Way. Maybe it will be a part of what kids learn in school, learning how to send out life-affirming or positive thoughts and vibrations as part of their behavior. That's what's being done with the Dream a World education that we celebrated with Bunny Hall and her film, The Ripple Effect, if you haven't seen it. That's what she's doing. She's taking into schools techniques and practices and lessons for children to learn that which they put out comes back to them. And if you've seen the documentary that we aired here, what it speaks to is that has a ripple effect, hence the name of the film, because it's not just changing those children's lives, it's changing the children's lives and the other children's in the school's lives and the teachers' lives and the families' lives who don't learn that and have the friendship tree, and then changing the community's lives. And then not only is the community's lives changing, then the school is changing, and the ripple effect continues and it continues and it continues and it continues and it continues. And if you look, it's also having an effect on us, for those of us that have participated in it and watched it and seen it. That's what this is being talking about, is the law of vibration. This writer writes, I am positive that future generations will learn to understand the law of vibration, the law of attraction, and other universal laws governing our lives. It will become second nature to them as long as someone will teach this important information to them at an early age. And I amend that to say there is no age that's too late to learn it. This writer goes on to write that we need to believe, expanding our frame of knowledge here, that anything is possible. We just need to believe it. Believing is seeing. Now, how often do we hear it? I will see it when I believe it, or I believe it when I see it, right? It goes hand in hand. It's important for us to know that as mental beings that know that the law of life responds to that which we place on it, it's important for us to declare the words, I will believe it, then I will see it, not the other way around. So choose today to commit to yourself to believe in the law of vibration. Commit to believe that every single thing is vibrating. Everything is vibrating. And that we're living in a sea of energy, and that our thoughts are on a certain vibrational frequency, and hence is part of this vibrating universe. The law of attraction is based on the law of vibration, and it states that we attract what we're sending out. Hence, positive energies. You guys know I'm not a big fan of that P word, but we'll use it today. I prefer life-affirming. So I will. Hence, life-affirming energies attract life-affirming energies back. And life-opposing energies, or negative, so to speak, attract life-opposing energies. Our thoughts are cosmic waves of energy that penetrate all time and all space. Thought is the most potent vibration of all. So this means you can attract what you want and wish for. Now, we know that, right? Most of us in the room know that. Why? Because we've thought about a great parking space and we got it. And you're like, I get it. I get this stuff. I figured it out. But the question is, are you trapped in a parking space mentality? Are you trapped in a parking space emotionality? Are you trapped in a parking space as a metaphor, physicality? Are you trapped in a parking space, spirituality? Knowing right here that your thought, which is the foundation of changing your vibration and changing your life, is the most potent vibration there is. Doesn't it make sense to consciously choose to have a new one? To have a new one about everything, about life, about God, about you as God, about the law itself, about what conscious mind and deep conscious mind is dropping on your head in regards to what? Your age, your financial picture, your possibilities, your health. Last night I was at a birthday party for someone that I consider a soul brother, and you know I use that term, and I use that term consciously, and this gentleman is. And he's celebrating his 95th birthday. And he defies the belief in chronological aging. He was rocking it on the dance floor. He did a little show with his wife. He's singing, he's vibrant, he's alive, and he lives life to the fullest. And there were people from all over the world that had come in to celebrate this beloved man named Joe Wallach. And the consistency of every single person that got up and lauded him and celebrated him talked about the kindness that he had exuded,
that was not bound by his physical age. It wasn't bound by what country he lived in. It wasn't bound by the fact that at one time he had an unhappy marriage. It wasn't bound by the fact that he had had cancer at one point. It wasn't bound by any of that stuff. It wasn't bound at all. In fact, it was boundless because he cherishes life every single day. He doesn't just sit back and go, oh, I cherish life every day. He's vibrant and he's active. One of the stories that was told, there's a group of us, and I know him from our dog, our crew called the Yappy Hour crew. And sometimes we walk, and Joe walks with us, and at 95, we have to work to keep up with him because he's rocking it down the street. And there are other times that we're not walking him, but he's rocking it down the street because we hear him coming. Because he has a handheld device that is defiant of people who believe that radio waves don't exist. He uses an iPhone, as I'm sure many of you do, and he listens on Sirius XM 40s music really loud. And so you can hear him walking down the street listening to his music, right? But what Joe knows is so important, and I know that you know, is that thought is the most potent vibration there is. And so he uses his to learn and to grow and to hear new things and to question life itself and to, most importantly, tell the people in his life that he loves them. That he loves them. He'll look you in the eye and go, I love you. And that's not out of fear that he's not going to be here tomorrow. He looks them in the eye and tells them he loves them because he knows that has a ripple effect. It has a ripple effect to every single person and loved one that he touches. He's not a practicing metaphysician, and yet he is a metaphysician because he knows that that which he holds in his heart, in his mind, in his soul, and his being vibrates from him. And it has that word I just used again, or that combination of words called the ripple effect. And it comes back to him. And you can see it in his eyes when he says, I love you. He's not waiting for you to say, I love you back. He just feels it coming back. And there's a big smile on his face. In other words, he is a man who practices conscious evolution because he's evolving beyond that which was predicated and told that would be his reality. And that's an opportunity for you and I to do the same. I'm going to share an example with you today of listening to and becoming aware mentally of what your vibrations can do. It's important for us to remember that as we change our vibrations to change our life, that there's no solidity in the universe, even though it appears that the seats you're sitting on are solid. They're not. It's just matter that's alive, that's doing its thing. And even though you weigh more than the chair itself, because of the way it's comprised intellectually with the wisdom of the universe and the wisdom of the individuals that designed the chair, that built the chair, it's holding you up. Even though the same gravity that's holding the chair to the floor is holding the floor to the building, that's holding the building to earth itself, that's holding earth itself where it is the same gravity that's not dropping your butt to the floor. The same laws working of gravity itself, and yet we believe there's solidity in the universe, but there's not. A form that appears solid is actually created by an underlying vibration. Vibrations express themselves in corresponding geometrical figures, and in this way build up crystals that are the expression of vibration. Now, if you've seen The Secret, and you've never heard me reference The Secret ever from this podium, ever, but I am today. If you've seen it, you remember the concept with the crystals in the movie, right? Crystals collectively form a body of an element according to its particular vibration. The forms of snowflakes and faces of flowers take on their shape because they're responding to some sound in nature. Crystals, plants, and human beings are music that has taken on visible form, and we also know that we are both impacted by the music that we hear and that we listen to and that we express. Not just music in the sense of a song, but music of the melodic vibration of how we release the wholeness of the individuality of who we are as the wholeness of spirit itself out to the universe. That is indeed music, even though we may not hear it, we may not see it, but we're damn certain we feel it. We know that. So take a moment and in your mind's eye, see yourself scattering some very fine sand over the head of a drum. Then take a tuning fork and strike a note just above the drum head, causing it to vibrate. The sand would shift and assume a geometrical figure corresponding to the particular note that was played on that tuning fork. And then when another is sounded, the sand will shift and assume another figure. This shows that every single vibration produces a corresponding geometric form. In other words, the law of vibration in action. Zig Ziglar tells us that life is an echo. What you send out comes back. What you sow, you reap. What you give, you get. What you see in others exists in you. Remember, life is an echo. An echo. An echo. It always gets back to you. So the question is not who are you, but who are you being? We know who you are. You're a child of God. You're a whole being. You're perfection. You're an expression of the interconnectedness of the only thing that is. But who are you being is the question. Who are you being? It's not just do it. It's just be it. We've heard before, be the change that you want to see in the world. But the question is, are you? Not with judgment, just simply inquisitiveness, to prompt you to ask yourself, when the tuning fork of your being vibrates out into the universe, what geometric form does the sand take? And then as that vibration moves to the next being, what geometric form does the sand, obviously a metaphor, take? And so on, and so on, and so on. If there is a moment or a bit within you that you're not pleased with what you're expressing, honor that you're not pleased. And then forgive yourself. And as David Walker used to say, get over it, Blatch. And start anew. Because just as what transpired when I honored that beloved man that many of us knew and loved so very much, when he would say, get over it, Blanche, he was saying, get over it, Blanche. And the reason he said Blanche, because I'm sure it's some old movie thing, but it was mostly to then shift. It was so that you would shift within you an awakening of joy. So that then the vibration that you emanate is joy, because that joy must come back. But it can only come back if you let it out. And so today I'm letting out my divinity to you, knowing it's coming back to me, not out of a sense of arrogance or greed that I want your divinity to come to me, because the divinity that is yours, that is coming back to me, that I'm giving to you, already exists within me, because we're all the same divine power. And we're mentally awakened today to know that the more we let that power out, and let it out, and let it out, and let it out, and let it out, the world that we live in must get better. So I invite you and I encourage you to awaken today, to have a new thought, a new action, a new reaction, a new interaction with the very life itself that exists within us. And use the most potent vibration there is, and that is to have a new thought and act upon it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I welcome our musicians back. Thank you.
Smile, though your heart is aching. Smile, even though it's breaking. While there are clouds in the sky, you'll get by. If you smile through your pain and sorrow, smile and maybe tomorrow you'll see the sun come shining through for you. Light up your face with gladness, hide every trace of sadness. Although a tear may be ever so near, that's the time you must keep on trying. Smile, what's the use of crying? You'll find that life is still worthwhile if you would just smile. Light up your face with gladness, hide every trace of sadness. Although a tear may be ever so near, that's the time you must keep on trying. Smile, what's the use of crying? You'll find that life is still worthwhile if you just smile.
Leah Zigo.